There's a hole drilled straight through solid granite, and the tool that supposedly drilled it wasn't hard enough to cut granite at all. Here's what you're actually looking at. In museum collections today sit small cylindrical cores of red granite, pulled out of holes drilled by ancient Egyptian workers thousands of years ago. One of the most famous, published by archaeologist Flinders Petrie in 1883, came straight out of Giza. It's solid granite, one of the hardest common stones on Earth, with a smooth spiraling groove cut cleanly around it. Now here's the part that should stop you cold. The tools available to the ancient Egyptians were copper and later bronze. Neither metal is hard enough to cut granite through simple abrasion, not even close. So somehow a tool made from a relatively soft metal was used to bore through one of the toughest stones available and do it with enough control to leave a clean, spiraling groove behind. And this isn't just one lucky artifact. Similar drilled cores and hollowed granite vessels have turned up across multiple sites in Egypt, spanning centuries of use, which means this wasn't a one-off experiment. It was a repeatable working technique used again and again on some of the hardest stone available. Most researchers agree the answer involves a tubular drill, essentially a hollow copper or bronze pipe, spun by hand or by bow, carving a ring-shaped channel and leaving a solid core in the middle. That part isn't seriously disputed, and evidence of these coring slots shows up on stone vessels and blocks from multiple periods, not just a single isolated example. What is disputed is what made the cutting actually possible. But wait, here's where the story gets genuinely strange. For over 3 decades, 2 of the most respected names in Egyptology argued about this and never fully agreed. Archaeologist Alfred Lucas proposed that loose, wet quartz sand, poured into the drill and spun against the stone, acted as the actual cutting agent, with the copper tube just guiding the motion. Petrie disagreed. He examined the spiral grooves closely and argued they looked too regular, too consistent, to have been cut by loose, randomly tumbling grains of sand. He believed the drills carried fixed cutting points, something like small embedded gemstones or jewels set directly into the copper. Think about what that disagreement actually means. 2 experts staring at the exact same physical evidence reached opposite conclusions about a technique used constantly across ancient Egyptian stoneworking. Neither of them was working off a hunch either. Both had spent years directly examining core drills, tool marks, and stone fragments from sites across Egypt before landing on their positions. Here's a detail that makes Petrie's argument harder to dismiss. Loose sand tumbles randomly as it grinds. It should leave scratches in every direction, not a single smooth, continuous spiral. But the groove on this specific core runs in one clean, unbroken line, exactly the kind of mark you'd expect from a fixed point dragging steadily through the stone as it turned, not from grit bouncing chaotically against the surface. Modern experiments have tried to settle this by actually building replica drills and testing both methods directly on granite. Wet quartz sand does work, slowly, and does eventually cut through granite with enough time and pressure. But reproducing that exact smooth, continuous spiral groove, the kind Petrie pointed to, has proven far harder to replicate convincingly using sand alone. Some experimenters have gotten closer by embedding small, hard mineral fragments directly into the drill's cutting edge, essentially building a crude version of what Petrie originally proposed, though even those attempts haven't fully nailed down the exact original method. So consider what that leaves you with. Either ancient Egyptian workers achieved a level of rotational consistency with loose abrasive sand that modern replication attempts still struggle to match, or they had access to a harder cutting material embedded directly in their tools, one that current evidence hasn't fully identified or confirmed. No Egyptian text survives describing exactly how these drills were built or what specific material tipped them. No diagrams, no instructions, no worker's manual. Everything researchers know comes entirely from studying the marks left behind in stone, not from anyone actually explaining the process. It's an entire branch of ancient engineering that has to be reverse engineered from scratch marks alone, the same way a detective works backward from evidence instead of reading a confession. Compare that to how a modern machinist would solve the same problem today. Diamond-tipped core drills, spinning at controlled, consistent speeds, can bore cleanly through granite in minutes. No debate required about how the physics works. The method is fully documented and fully understood. Nothing about it is a mystery. Now hold that modern certainty next to a 4,000-year-old core sitting in a museum case, cut by hand tools nobody fully agrees on, using techniques nobody wrote down. So the next time you see a photo of ancient Egyptian stonework, remember what's actually sitting behind that polished granite surface. Not just impressive craftsmanship, an unsolved technical debate that's already outlasted the archaeologists who started it, still waiting for someone to finally settle exactly how it was done, one scratch mark at a time on a stone that was never meant to give up its secrets easily.